So, I wanted to briefly talk about something that's been sitting in my spirit, right? And I've been like creating the politic of not saying this just because it's multifaceted, but I'm gonna say it anyway. So, for those of us who watched, I didn't watch Love Island, but am very much invested, or I was very much invested in Nicolandria, and I'm Team Nicolandria Nation. But this is a lesson for women, right? Because we are still shifting into a different consciousness, right? What is happening is we are trying earth consciousness, multiple realm, whatever. We are trying to shift back into something that's more natural and more sustainable. And when there are shifts, it makes the most basic of things very uncomfortable. One of those things are the dynamics in gender between men and women changing, right? And so when we look at shows like Love Island, that I do believe is some sort of like psychological ops, like is experimenting with the idea of love and then the idea of the consumer and how they're consuming these ideas of love and these gender relations and all those kinds of things. So I'm saying all of this to say, as we start to get more uncomfortable, right? Women get uncomfortable, men get uncomfortable, our reality is being stripped. It is natural for our bodies to try to revert back into comfort. And I fear that a lot of women will get distracted with the Nicolandria situation. And as someone who has always been, tapped in and recognized patterns, particularly with men, right? Considering it's something that I train myself to watch because I was raised religious and patriarchal, and that was not who I was fundamentally. And I always knew that since I was a small girl. And I want nothing but the best for Olandria. I believe that Olandria is smart, intelligent. She is a literal goddess and a queen, and she deserves all of the treatment that Nick is giving her. However, men have an established pattern, and men are hunters. And it's a little unnerving to me the way Nick set his sights on her and eventually got what he wanted, even though it was far out of his mind. Now, this is a very admirable trait in the masculine, but you always are supposed to keep your head on a swivel. And this is not about Nick and Olandria. This is about you. This is about you when you get confronted with men who are good and decent men, or men who portray themselves to be good and decent, right? And I know a lot of this is hard and difficult to absorb because we've been conditioned to believe in certain things, but the word lie is within belief. So often our belief systems are not accurate. I'll say this. I hope and pray that Nick is exactly who the public believes that he is. I hope and pray that his mom and his sister is exactly who they portray themselves to be, and they have all of the best intentions with Olandria. I believe Olandria is smart and intentional and tough and strong, and I believe that she has everything needed to equipped within her to protect herself should things switch up. But when we are in this sort of shift, I mentioned this a couple years ago on TikTok, there will be certain men will take different routes as they realize that the positions that they had within society is not really what it actually is. And they have been lied to, we have been lied to. Right? And I said that men are going to take different approaches. Some men are just going to go all out violent and anarchist, and you're going to be able to see that loud and proud and coming from 1,000 miles away. There's going to be men who will teeter the line. You don't really know how they feel. They kind of treat you okay, but they also sort of say things and hold things that is questionable. There are going to be men who pretend to be good people, to pretend to be enlightened, who listen and watch women's content so that they know how to show up. And then there are going to be men who genuinely understand, who genuinely are enlightened. I'll tell you this. Anyone, no matter what gender identification, when you are truly becoming enlightened, you will be by yourself. And if you are not by yourself for a period of time, and this doesn't mean physically, right? You can be spiritually and emotionally in isolation. You can be married and not feel connected to your spouse who's a good person, like that girl that was crying about being sort of miserable while being married, but being married to a really good man, right? Isolation comes in different forms. So you have to learn how to think differently. Men have an established pattern of who they are, and they are hunters. When I look at what I was seeing with, I'm like the rest of y'all. I'm team Nicolandria, and I really hope that Nick is the person he portrays himself to be, but there is always a chance that he's not. And when men have the ability to govern themselves in the way that Nick did, to always have a watchful eye, it's very attractive to the feminine. It's attractive to me, but you have to keep watching and you have to keep paying attention, and you never get comfortable, right? So I hope as they continue to go about their journey in their relationship, that they learn to take the support from those of us who love Nicolandria and to toss away those that don't. And I believe Olandria have everything that she needs to protect herself if need be. And I hope that everything work out. But there is always a chance that men who are that diligent, who are that precise, the way he watched her when she jumped into the pool and had on that dress, he's always watching her. And that makes a person like me, who is naturally paranoid and cautious, my senses start tingling. On the surface, it's cute, but my senses start tingling. And so I'm saying all of this to say, always keep a watchful eye. Whether it's your husband, whether it's your cousin, whether it's your brother, whether it's your father. Always keep a watchful eye. The road is gonna get rocky. As the divine feminine starts to take her place back and we start shifting into a less patriarchal mindset, you are not gonna know the difference between the really good men and the really bad ones. And if you have ever studied under Kendall St. Charles, you know she says this is the war of the wombs. And I have never seen too many white women who genuinely loved black women and wanted their sons to be married to black women. That's all I'm going to say. I choose to believe that Nicolandria's mom and sister is exactly who they say they are. I choose to believe that the divine feminine and his mom sees how great her son could be with a woman like Olandria. And I choose to believe in Nicolandria, knowing that my belief system is mine and I can change it at any moment. And it is my job to always keep my head on a swivel and always keep a watchful eye and never get comfortable. You should never allow yourself to get comfortable in the fairy tale. And as things shift, your body and your mind's natural reaction to protect yourself is to shift back into something that makes you comfortable. And when too many women are watching this love story with Nicolandria unfold, they start to believe that it's more attainable for themselves. I don't want to give you false hope, and I'm not going to give you false hope. Just understand that your belief system does not reflect reality most of the time.